Chronicle podcast powered by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out the Batman Universe for this and many other great Batman podcasts. I'm Josh, and joining me is...
This is Donovan.
This is Jan.
And we are still on our winter break, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's considered winter in January. It's in Florida, winters are kind of weird for us, so, like, I'm not sure when it's, like, winter and when it's spring because, you know, our leaves don't change colors and we don't have palm trees, so or our leaves don't change colors and like we don't have snow and stuff. So, but in any case, we're going to be covering some interviews that Ben and I did at the DC and DC 2018 convention this past weekend that involve Gotham. And getting Don and Jan's reactions on them, especially because Jan is specifically mentioned in one of the three interviews. So, yes. This was a convention that DC kind of announced, like, I'm trying to remember if Gotham was already over, if we already did that season finale, but I remember...
like less than a month ago, I think.
Yeah, I remember sitting down for, like, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and I get, like, an email from one of the publicity people, Gary Mariano, about this event, so it was when Last Jedi came out. I was like, what? I was like, this is less than a month in advance. And I tried to convince all these peons to go with me, but none of them would. And
Shut up.
Stella.
I mean, if you want to pay for my plane ticket, I'd be more than happy to join you anywhere.
I might make a different offer for that, you know. I'll talk about off mic, but I have an idea for a trip that, you know, maybe I could help Jan with plane tickets on.
Yay!
A Gotham-related thing. But in any case, yeah. Yes. Even Stella, who was our co-host for the first year, like, you know, this was about 2 hours from her, but she had a lot of school and work stuff going on, you know, so it was hard for her to get away. So I took Ben, the intern, and, you know, and we had a good time in Old DC. There was a lot of non-Gotham events there, but, and if you want to hear those, you can listen to the podcast that Ben and I did over on the Batman Universe Specials feeds. That has the rest of the interviews, and we talk more in depth about some of the other stuff there. But this was a very different convention. Like, Donovan and I have done a lot of these press rooms and like over the years, and like this was like the most pampered press room ever. They had like a buffet all day, which is great because sometimes you're in these rooms all day and like you don't get a chance to leave or have lunch, and like the menu changed every hour. So like there was like, you know, sandwich wraps one at a time, breakfast foods another time, like, you know, desserts another time, and like an unlimited open bar. Like, it was like, oh my gosh.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we only had soda, you know, because I don't drink alcohol, and I don't think Ben does either. But like,
I hope not.
You think?
that was great. There's actually a picture of him at the Black Lightning premiere party, like sitting on the chair, like staring at his drink, and he looks drunk, but I swear it's like soda in there. But I posted that picture because like he's like staring at his drink, like, you know, like, what is the meaning of life? Do you understand life? Do you? You're tearing me apart, Black Lightning.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but, you know, for Friday stuff was mostly, you know, Gotham by Gaslight and that premiere and cocktail party. But on Saturday there was 3 different press sessions, and at each of them, or did we only talk? Yeah, at each of the one press sessions, we got a Gotham person. So the first one was called Shades of Heroism, and it was also technically from sketch to screen, you know, but they combined them. You know, there was a panel about basically bringing these DC shows to screen, and a panel about, you know, diversity and race in the DC shows. And the first person that we spoke to was Chris Chalk, who plays Lucius Fox on Gotham. So let's take a listen to that interview.
Adios, annoying
Hi everyone, I have Chris for you. I'm always ready.
Hey.
What's up, y'all?
Hey, Lucius Fox.
Amen, amen. That's a nice little rig.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And a dope shirt. How y'all doing today?
Good, how are you?
That's a style and
I
hat.
love the flash. Yeah, it's very, very subtle.
I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are we going to be getting any more scenes of you with Davi Mazouz this season? Because you guys only had that one thing. You gave him the gear and then promptly threw it in the trash a few episodes later.
I know, he did not appreciate the work I put in,
I
but
mean,
that's how he does. That's new Bruce, though. New Bruce has a little bit of a attitude problem.
I mean, well, you fired Alfred. I mean, you could be the new butler.
I mean, It could work. I mean, maybe a little smarter than Alfred. But no, I think we will see. There's in the beginning of this spring release, there will be still a little bit of Lucius in the GCPD, and then we transition more into aiding young Bruce Wayne or teenage Bruce Wayne.
Right? He's taller than
He's
Ben
almost
McKenzie
taller than
now.
me, and that's a problem. It's super weird because when I came in, he was like here.
Yeah.
He was a kid, and then someone had me sign a thing recently, and I went, oh my gosh, he's almost taller than me, and I'm not going to grow anymore. But he's got plenty of growing to do.
What informs your performance of Lucius Fox? Because in the Batman mythos, there aren't a lot of African American characters. And this is only, I think, the second live-action incarnation
Version of him, yeah.
For a lot of people, he's an obscure character, but Morgan Freeman and the Nolan movies have risen the prominence of the character. What informs your performance, and what is your opinion of the character Lucius Fox and his importance to the Batman mythos?
Well, especially now that we have. I remember the first comic with him in it. He's randomly captured. I think it was him and actually Alfred are randomly captured, and Batman comes and saves him. And then they're like, and that's Lucius, and he appeared. The magical Negro appears from nowhere. But especially with Nolan's interpretation, the newer comics with the new Batwing, who's actually Lucius's son. It's it informs me because there's so much information now that wasn't there. There's so many personality traits. There's so many things that I can draw from. Morgan Freeman obviously did an incredible job, and I tried not to borrow from that on purpose. Just because we're too different. Because it's only the second live-action version of him, so I'm like, let me do my thing. And there's only so much room you can live in this genius man in Gotham who is non-violence way. But I think even this season, as we come further, there are little details our show is going to add about Lucius that are very different from the mythos. So yeah, I just draw from all those details and not Morgan Freeman.
And then his importance as a character to the mythos.
The importance. As a CEO. Well, what I love about this show, because I've come from things like 12 Years a Slave, Underground, all these very obviously social things, but this is so important in a way that kids are seeing the smartest guy in the room as a brown-skinned male, and as the guy who's running a company, as the guy who's making these gadgets. So it's a different version of heroism that I think is so important. And I can't say going into it I thought of that. It's just as I realized it as I talked to kids who I did a thing with STEM, and there's all these little scientists who were like, yeah, I want to develop vaccines for anything, and Lucius Fox, and I was like, yeah, that's what I intended the whole time. But it really does inspire these youth to do a different kind of heroism. It doesn't have to be fists and kicking. It can be, in the boardroom.
Using your brain.
Yeah. So, great question.
So what have been what were your expectations going into it? What ones have been met, what ones have not been met, and what new expectations have you added?
The expectations going into it, especially because it had already been established before I went in, I was super nervous because I was a dude coming into a show that had already been established, but everybody was so generous and kind. So then it was kind of a gray area where I didn't have many expectations. I was just kind of going along for the ride. But now that I know everybody and I have an idea of where our arc is going, there's expectations I can't tell you. But I do expect some of the bigger things that we as fans of Batman, I expect to be creating some of those things. And I look forward to, I won't say expect, but I look forward to seeing more of who Lucius is without Bruce, which we get to play with a little bit. Yes.
Oh, I just want to say I'm Patrick with New Release Wednesday and the Nerds of Color. We also represent Black Heroes Matter.
Yes.
I want to thank you for your portrayal. You're doing a fantastic job. For my Black Heroes Matter people, my folks over at the Nerds of Color, anything you want to say to those nerds that live through what you're doing and your representation?
You can hold this while you say.
Heck yeah. Well, as a nerd of color, I actually consider myself a geek of color. I lost the question a little bit, but I have an answer I'm interested in, which is coming up. I was reading all this stuff. These are my comic books, more Marvel than DC, but that's It's okay. They forgive me.
I'm with you on that.
And to now get to see like Black Lightning, to see David Harewood on Supergirl, to see these people of color who are representing these heroes that are undersung sometimes. Like, who knew about Black Lightning besides nerds? You know what I mean? And to see it, like, I have a statue in my bathroom of Black Lightning, and now to see, which my wife let me keep for some reason, which it's just so nice to see it, and it's so I thank everyone for supporting it, because it, one, gives me employment, but it's so important, just like we were saying earlier, to see these different versions of heroism, to see every shade, to see, you know, like, I can't wait for the new Spider-Man to be what he is in the comic books, the new Hulk to be what he is in the comic books, you know, so that, you know, we do see more people of color. Like, we understand a certain narrative. Let's see all these other narratives that exist, and that's exciting.
Thank you so much.
Is there a character from the Batman mythos that you haven't gotten to interact with, especially if they are a minority, who you'd really like to see on screen with you?
Deadshot would be really cool, especially because he's around the same age as Bruce, so to see some, like, budding conflict would be, or maybe not even conflict, honestly, because it may be too soon for that, but to see, like, this little rich brown kid and this little rich white kid, and see what that looks like, though. These two future, like, assassins, essentially, would be amazing. That's the one.
That would be very cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This guy.
All right, this guy is because David Harewood from Supergirl was like walking over, you know, and he was so.
That was excellent. Like, bravo on that. That's one of the best. That is one of the best Gotham interviews I've ever heard.
He said magical Negro. I lost it.
And I can't believe he said that.
I was like,
I could barely hear you guys, but like when he said that, like I could hear you both explode like for like a minute afterwards.
it's a trope. So the fact that he said it with those exact words was like, is just like hilarious, because even in I think Cards Against Humanity, it just says like a magical black man. It doesn't say Negro. So
also like it's such a frank, like, kind of uncompromising take on Lucius Fox that the fact that he was up front with it really made me laugh.
Because that's what he is.
Well, I remember New York Comic Con, like I did that thing where I would show the cast members like pictures of them from the comic, and when I showed Chris Chuck, Lucius Fox thing, he was like, "Oh, I've read that. I know it." So like, I should have known. Like, he's done his research. I'm amused that like he thinks, "Oh, well, you know, of course, you know, Deadshot would obviously be the same age as Bruce because he is in the comics." Like they haven't like messed with everyone else's age. And I'm a little sad that he thinks that Deadshot's black, but you know,
there's no reason for him to think that, especially not the movie.
Yeah, I know, but like in the comic, he researched Lucius Fox, but he doesn't know that Deadshot's white in the comic. But like, I'm not mad. I'm just like amused, you know. Like
I kind of feel like DC does this thing where they do try to make the comics kind of parallel, like they do the same thing Marvel does. They kind of try to shift things so that they parallel the movies.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I know that as of this recording, they recently announced another Suicide Squad animated film, and Deadshot's still white. But I would not be surprised if, like, somewhere down the line, they'll do like Ultimate DC and like he'll be black there or something.
They did do Ultimate DC. It was called the New 52. Any other thoughts about what Chris had? I love that he has a Black Lightning statue in his bathroom. I thought that was awesome.
Did you say his wife liked it too?
he's like my wife let me keep it for some reason.
Oh, okay. I like that he corrected. He's like, I'm not a nerd, I'm a geek. I'm like, thank you, sir. Me too.
That was super cool.
I'm not smart enough to be a nerd. I'm a total geek, though. You give me something to get excited about, I will geek out forever.
He sounded like hella super cool. Like, because I'm not. I mean, was he the last two Comic-Con? Because I've never seen him at the con before.
You know, the first time I remember ever speaking with him was New York Comic-Con. I don't think I ever got him at any of the San Diegos. It's possible we did, but I'm thinking no. I know I didn't get him at the last one. That I know that for sure.
I mean, he just sounds super enthusiastic. I mean, all the actors generally
usually
do.
We don't get we usually, like, when they do the Gotham press rooms at San Diego, we get like 60% of the people.
Right, yeah, but I mean, like the Gotham actors never don't sound unenthusiastic. But I mean, he was just really into it, like from all sides. It you know, you can kind of tell whenever like a doctor might BS or whatever, or just kind of having a fun time. But he seemed like he was just all over it, and I got really jazzed just listening to that. That was a pleasure.
Yeah, he was like a genuine, like, I know, like, Devi was, like, totally like, yeah, I read all the Batman comics, and I've already read this one. Like, that kind of, like, complete head over heels, geek-loving, comic-loving person. And I was just like, yes, I want to hang out with him. He sounds cool.
He is really cool. Like, but both times it's like, because there's some interviews where the people are kind of, like, stiff or they're not really friendly. Like, this guy was...
I guess, like, in the same vein as, like, Erin Richards, he's just excited to be there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all the Gotham interviews, like, that we're gonna do were pretty cool.
Did you learn more about that, because you and I talked about, like, we learned that Erin Richards and Chris Chalk were doing this sort of, like, teenage seminar thing in New York. Did they talk about that at all during that time there?
No, not that I remember, no. I mean, they might have during one of their panels, because, like, we didn't see the whole panel, because this was pretty cool too, because while we're at SDCC, we don't get to go to some of the panels because, like, the lines and everything, and, like, we're in the press rooms. But, like, here in the press room, they had this, like, HD TV that was streaming, like, the panels, so that way, like, if you had to, like, be in the press room for something, you wouldn't miss the panel while you were, like, waiting for your next press session, which was pretty cool. So some of the time, Ben and I would go down to the theater and, like, watch the panel live, but then other times it's like, let's just stay in the press room. We got food and drinks there, like, we got food and drinks there. We could text people, so let's do it. And the cool thing about staying in the press room was, it was kind of, like, also doubling as a green room, so, like, different, like, stars would, like, walk in and out. So Ben is absolutely embarrassed by this story, but at one point, like, somebody comes in with a dog.
So I'm going to share it.
I already shared it on the other podcast too. He'll deal with it. But, like, someone walks in with a dog, and the dog is dressed up like Harley Quinn, and like Ben's looking down at this dog. He's like, "Oh my gosh, your dog is so cute!" And the dog owner's like, "Thanks." And I look up at the dog owner, and I'm like, "Ben, that's Batman. That's Davi Mazouz." Like, he noticed the dog before he noticed it. For some reason, he's embarrassed by that story. But later
because he recognized the dog before the actor.
Yeah, but, like...
Because that would be me. That would be me.
Well, which, like, Donovan will, like, be the first to tell you I never recognize actors. Like, I did not realize Mark Hamill was in the first Kingsman, so... Like,
I like the idea that, like, a celebrity just kind of turns around and it's... he was in the first act. And, on our podcast episode, like for, like, 3/4 of the episode, Josh was like, wait a minute, that was him? But
yeah,
I like the image of like, oh, what a cool dog, he's just like Harley Quinn, and, like, you hear thank you, he turns around and it's Davi Mazouz, star of the show you're talking about.
Yeah,
that would be me. Be like, oh my god, this dog. I look up, oh my god, it's Batman.
The dog's name was Starlet. So, like, later on, like, we were, like, walking in the lobby to this DC pop-up booth thing, and, like, we saw him and the dog there again with Sean Pertwee. So we took a picture with them, and I sent it to Ben's mom, and she, like, texted me back, like well, first I sent her a picture of just the dog, like, oh, look, there's a dog as Harley Quinn, and then I sent, like, the picture of Ben, the dog, Sean Pertwee, and Davi Mazouz, and she says, why is he in a picture with the dog owners? Is there anything special about them? I'm like, that's Batman and Alfred.
Oh god. You should ask if when you next interview either, like, Danny Cannon, Heller, or Davi Mazouz, you should ask if they ever think about giving Bruce a dog and having Ace the Bat Hound.
Yes.
This version of Bruce is so irresponsible. He can't.
I would be so.
The dog would get killed.
Martine.
Oh no!
The problem with dogs.
It'll be Ace Watch 2018.
That'd be awesome.
The problem with dogs is, like, once you have a dog, you have to have the dog in every episode, or there's going to be trouble, because, like, that happened in Smallville. Like, Clark got a dog named Shelby in, like, season 4. I think it was. And, like, there'd be, like, entire, like, blocks of episodes, like 10 episodes in a row where Shelby wouldn't appear. And every single, like, week on Krypton Site's message boards, people would be like, where's Shelby? Why isn't Clark taking care of Shelby?
I forgot about that.
Shelby did. Like, and then, like, if Shelby would appear for one scene in one episode, people would be like, yay, Shelby. So I think if Bruce gets a dog, it would just open up this door to, like...
Look, that is a natural reaction to a dog. Dogs are too pure for this world.
They are indeed. You know what? Screw it. They want Harley Quinn. Bring in his dog as Starlet, dressed as Harley Quinn, so Reddit will shut up.
Why? Yes. Master B, why is the dog wearing this?
I got it for cheap. It was on sale for some reason.
And then like Jerome
though I'm
tries to
rich.
kidnap Bruce again, and he looks at the dog like,
And falls in love.
"It's giving me an idea."
Then he steals the dog, and they go on a crime spree.
This is already an
So
episode of
later
Gotham
on,
Chronicle.
there was a press room for a panel called Wonder Women, which was like different, women in the industry, for publishing, TV, and stuff, talking about, just talking about feminism and stuff like that.
Why were they
And-
talking about feminism?
Yeah, we spoke to the Gotham City Sirens, Erin Richards, Camren Bicondova, and Jessica Lucas. Yeah, and Dustin posted the article that I wrote up on it, and someone's like, why do they have to talk about feminism? I'm all for feminism, but this is ridiculous. And I responded like, they were literally at a convention where like the subject matter was feminism. They had just done a panel talking about feminism, and they were sitting down to do press about that panel, about that event, about feminism. I was lucky that they even like humored me talking about Gotham because
Yeah, they don't have to shove
I
our coats down for it.
yeah, I kind of felt guilty when I would ask people about this. But anyway, here are the Gotham City Sirens.
So I know that you can't give away any spoilers, but we've all been dying to know what the heck did Ra's al Ghul do to your hand. So you can't tell us what he did, but can you tell us when we'll be seeing some answers about that?
Soon. We're just filming it now, so it'll be 16, 17, 18, 19 is where the big development of that will happen, and it is worth the wait.
And with your new club, the gun shop blown up, are you going to be back in your old club, the Iceberg Lounge? Like, what's the Sirens' new status quo for the second half of season 4?
It's our new status quo. We're in the club, aren't we? We're in the club. Yeah, we're back in the club. Yeah.
We're in the club.
I think so. I think we're kind of all branching off and doing our own thing for a little bit.
Yeah.
And exploring other things, and then I think maybe the plan is to bring us back together.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We find our way. We're star-crossed lovers.
Not really. We're not breaking up, but we just have other things
Exploring
going
other
on.
activities
for a while.
On a break.
We're our own individuals outside of the entity.
So, Camren, with you doing your own stunts, what's it like? Do you have to do a bunch of training? Do you already know the stuff, or?
I do a lot of training. I haven't done a lot of training recently, just because life. But I made it to where at the beginning of this season, I talked to the producers and stunt coordinator and said that I wanted to be more involved in the stunt process. And so I actually have rehearsals now, and sometimes they'll last like 3 hours just because I just want to keep doing it, and I actually get to collaborate. So some of the choreography is actually my input, which is really fun because I came from dance and I like to choreograph. So to see something on TV and say, "Oh my God, that was my idea," it's really cool. So yeah.
So we're here in DC for this, historic weekend, and this is a really unique event. What do you guys think of, as opposed to a Comic-Con? What's your experience with this? It's very different.
Saying it was so lovely and empowering that we just get to openly discuss these issues in an open forum like that. And I felt like the audience was really warm and receptive to it, which was really nice. I was just talking at the other table about how I've been in this business longer than even I started when I was 14, so I've been in it a long time. And the shift now, I would never have been on a panel with a bunch of women openly discussing how we feel about playing these characters and where we want to see the industry going and talking about pay and things. So it's incredible. The shift is incredible.
There used to be a real feeling of you would just kind of toe the line a little bit. You'd smile and you'd say what you needed to say, and now it just feels like it's been blown completely open, and it's almost welcomed. Our feelings, our thoughts, our reflections on how we should be treated, what we should be wearing, how much we should be paid. Everything, every single aspect of our lives is open for us to be no, this isn't acceptable anymore. And to not then lose our jobs instantly or not get another job, because it's if all women are saying this, then you will have no choice but to listen. Because there will be no other woman to take the job. Because my sister's holding out and not letting that happen.
And it feels nice to be in a space that is welcoming, because a lot of the time I feel like the topics that we're discussing have always been kind of shut down, feelings. like depression and anxiety, and I've never been in a space where that's actually been interested in, and to be in a space like this where stuff like topics like that are welcome, and topics like money and job security, it's nice to be able to have a space that you can just talk and not be judged for.
And then hopefully that will expand out to other industries, because we're so aware that like we are in a bubble essentially.
We're already quite privileged.
We're very privileged. Yeah, we get paid really well. We have really good support around us. So the hope that is that this doesn't feel ostracizing for other women in other industries, and that this like trickles out and down and up and around, so that everyone feels this same amazing feeling of support.
Not a question, but a personal comment. I appreciate the comment about women sticking together, because often women might compete over like, oh, I want to be the best one, or well, I need this job. But if we all share the pay and everything like that, I think that is the way to go. So I really appreciate hearing that from people who are setting the pace.
But I think that competitiveness comes from like the scarcity, right? Like the scarcity, the lack of the female stories that are being told, that there's not as much for us to get, like whether it's money or whatever the role is. There's like 4 female characters and 10 male characters. So then it forces us to compete with one another. So hopefully like, the more stories that are told, more women that are writing, more women that are directing, we won't have to compete with each other so much. There'll be room for all of us.
I just want to make a quick statement. I absolutely love Gotham. I love you ladies. And my daughter, who's a little fangirl herself, she wants to watch Gotham. She hasn't watched it yet, but she's a dancer.
Oh, really?
I want to tell you directly, she knows you through your music and dance videos.
Oh my God.
And she's seen a lot of your work, and she's mimicked it in our dance area of our house. So you guys are fantastic. And Madison Taylor Strange loves you.
Madison, I love you too. Thank you.
She's got to watch Gotham.
I know.
Yeah. When she gets a little bit older.
Yeah.
It's a little bit violent,
Yeah, just a bit. Just right.
Oh yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys.
I think we got the signal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Barbara Keene is the worst Uber Eats delivery driver ever. Like, bringing the Thai food and shooting them instead.
Anybody order Thai food? Good, because I don't got any.
Never broke her stride either.
I know, right? I love that scene. It was really fun. Thank you. I like doing stuff that's like physical, but physically kind of like almost like dancing, bits like that, physical comedy.
Okay, so what do you all think of that one?
I thought it was like super cool that feminist stuff aside, that they were talking about like anxiety and depression and all that stuff, that they weren't like stigmatized for it, that they were taken seriously, and they were like being supported through that. Because I do know that being an actor, especially since you're not just on the screen, but you have to take like pictures and stuff, you're like heavily scrutinized, and especially for women, you're like scrutinized like 10 times more, because like you have to be perfect or people try to rip you down.
Why are you talking about feminism?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Why would I want to be equal?
They also one of the things that they talked about in the panel, which wasn't mentioned in this interview, was that the writers really like kind of respect them and their boundaries, because there was supposed to be a scene where Barbara and Tabitha were torturing somebody, and they were like, oh, let's take off all our clothes while we torture this person, so that way we don't get blood on our clothes. Like, so Barbara and Tabitha were going to be in like their underwear torturing someone so that their like clothes wouldn't get all bloody. And Jessica and Erin said, yeah, we don't want to do that. And the producer says, okay, cool, you can do the scene with your clothes on. So, and there was like no like pressure or any like fallback from that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That makes sense considering what they've done with Poison Ivy this show. But no, that's cool that like they take their actresses seriously. I was trying to figure out what Camren was saying. Like, are they going to be tackling issues of anxiety and depression in the show, or is that like open for discussion?
No, she was just saying that in regards to anxiety and depression, they're not like stigmatized, and they have a support group, and they're supported through that, I think is what she was saying.
That if an actress speaks up, they're not going to be like ridiculed or made fun of. That like they have a safe space and a support system.
Well, that's great. That's excellent.
I also do like the part. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Now I was going to shift subjects.
Oh, you can go ahead.
I also like the part where she was saying, like, she said she wanted to do more stunts, so she pushes for more, what is it called, scheduled practice time, because she is a dancer, and then she actually helps choreograph the fight scenes. And she's so young. It's, like, so awesome.
Yeah, I love how, like, you know, like, Gotham's, like, a springboard. Like, while you're, like, working on the show, you can, like, learn to be a director, like, you know, Ben McKenzie, or, like...
Or as a writer, like Ben McKenzie.
Yeah, or like, Camren Bicondova, she's doing choreography. Like, she's going to become, like, a choreographer of some sort, so I thought that was cool. That was the same point I was going to make, Jan, so that... So that's why it's okay that you shifted it.
Well, I was wondering, how much of the remember like I think in the early of the season we see Selena use the whip, and I was wondering, and I know I've seen footage of like Camren Bicondova practice with the whip, but she was doing like acrobatics and stuff. It was at that scene in the alley, and I was wondering, like, I honestly didn't know how much was her and how much was a stunt person, so maybe that was all her.
Well, I figure that she does a lot of her own stunts based on something, and somebody commented on TBU, like, how dare you imply that the other girls don't do their own stunts, and I was like, what the heck? We were talking to Cameron. We didn't say, you do your own stunts, unlike Jessica and Erin, who, like, hung their heads in shame. It's true.
Well, I mean, even, like, I mean, of course, this was before the close-up shots, but, like, I've seen footage of W. Mazouz and Cameron Monaghan, like, kind of going through, like, kind of blocking out their fight sequence in the mirrors. So it's not like, you know, these guys are like Roger Moore sitting on the side drinking coffee while their lookalikes do stunt doubles. I mean, I've never really noticed a stunt double in these shows.
But also, if you remember from earlier interviews, they were talking about, like, how, I think Jessica was saying how, I don't know if it was Jessica or Erin, but one of them was saying how jealous they were of Camren. They were like, yeah, like, her, like, she's so good because she's a dancer. She picks them up so easily. Oh, it was Erin. The fight scenes, because Erin finally got to be able to fight. And she's like, yeah, mine aren't as complicated as hers, but she's a dancer and she can move better than I can.
Yeah. Tabitha and, like, Selena are, like, whipping people and, like, fighting and, like, doing hand-to-hand combat, and, like, Barbara just walks in with, like, a Thai food bag and shoots them, like...
Yeah.
Easy stuff. I do remember a clear case of a stunt double back in season 1 where, like, Bruce had to, like, make a rooftop jump. And that was, like, when Bruce was, like 3 years old, and, like, and then, like, when he, like, made the jump, he was, like, you know, like, 9 feet tall, and then, like, it, like, goes back to, like, season 1, 3-year-old W. Mazouz, so...
That was a close one over there.
Thank God I had a growth spurt mid-flight.
Yeah.
It was like a shift in the timeline where, like, he was future Bruce, where he actually is that tall right now.
Oh.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh my. Yeah. Which, like, Chris talking about, like, he's so
Not
tall.
again.
My name is Barry Allen.
So before we did our last interview session, we walked to there was this thing outside the museum called the DC Pop-Up Booth, which was really cool. It was like this, like, kind of like those booths that they have at Comic-Con. And they had these life-size covers of, like, DC Comics, a bunch of trade paperbacks for sale. Like, we posed with a few of the, like, you know, life-size covers and stuff. You could play Injustice. They had free coffee from, like, a little, like, coffee shop called DC Jitters, which was based off of CC Jitters from the CW shows, which neither of us drink coffee, but, like, you know, we got the cups, you know, just as a souvenir, like, oh, cool, Jitters, just like, you know, the show. And there was so many Funko Pops, and I thought that, like, Funko Pops were, like, you know, $20 or $30, but Stella's been pushing them on everyone, and like, Ben was getting some, and he got me, like, a homeless cop one for, like, $10, and I was like, wait, what? Like,
it said homeless cop on the box.
Yeah, they're between 5 and about $40, depending, unless they're, like, super limited. Like the Bob Ross with, like, a squirrel is about, like, $60 right now on Amazon because it's so limited.
You're drunk.
I remember that.
Look, I need all the Bob Ross Funko Pops.
So I got a Gordon one, and then I was like, oh, but he can't be by himself, so I got a Bullock one to go with it, and, like,
to give him a home.
Well, it's funny because now that I'm back in Florida, I was, like, talking to the other kids at work, and I was like, yeah, so I got this homeless cop Funko Pop, but I don't know what to do with him. I don't want to take it inside my house because then, like, he has a home. So like, where should I? And they're like, Josh, you're taking this too far. Just like, be nice to the Funko Pop. Give him a warm bed. It's winter. Like,
here's a question. Did you take it out of the box because that's always like an either or kind of thing?
I kept the box. I didn't have the heart to like throw the box out, but like Ben like immediately like took all of them out of the boxes to like have them do like little like poses and stuff, and like pretended that like Bullock and Gordon and he got a Grant Gustin a Flash and like and a Arrow and a Black Canary. So he pretended that like they were all having a crossover, and then they all beat up Gordon.
As he deserved.
Maybe it's a good thing Ben wasn't there.
Well, I mean, like
Mackenzie.
Some of them are hard to stand up. Like my Pearl Funko Pop's constantly falling over. So like all my other ones, like
the Black Canary one kept on falling over, and her head came right off.
Like love to find in the box because they're easier to store that way. Like you just stack them.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the Cowboy Bebop Funkos I got when I was visiting Jan in Texas. I have those still in the box. I have Black Panther still in the box. Carrie Kelly Robinson in the box. Like I've learned my lesson because they fall over too easily. I think.
I do have my Batman out though, and he just stands vigil at the top of my bookcase over the.
That he does, yes.
Bedroom.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do with like because I could put him back in the box real easily, but it's like and I thought about like putting it out on my porch. That way he's still homeless, but then it's like someone can steal him. But who would kidnap Gordon? Like,
that way he's still homeless. we've brainwashed ourselves, haven't we? It's a toy.
Even Ben has had enough of that. Like we were like, because I was like explaining the dilemma to him while we were having like lunch on like the last day, and he's like, Josh, he's not homeless anymore. Let it go. You're taking this too far.
And yet we've yet to see it this season.
Exactly. Who's laughing now? Like
he lives in the GCPD.
So the last interview was it was for what was the panel was about trauma and PTSD, and this was really cool because they had like Obama's like former like Surgeon General there and like stuff like that, and like real big deal people, and oddly enough, like this was weird for me. Jason Inman, who like I've said is like a podcasting like second cousin of ours because Donovan and I did a podcast with his wife for 5 minutes like a few years ago.
Days of Future Past podcast of a comic book film review.
Yeah, and
nasty person.
Say what?
It was the very first episode. I just listened to it this week, actually. How creepy is that, guys?
The timeline.
The pilot episode of our show.
Yes.
before we were retooled. But the main event was, and this was really cool. J.W. Cortes, who plays Alvarez, who was wearing a literal red shirt. I was like, I can't even. I think like I saw him walk in. And I took out my phone to text you both, and I was like, and I said Alvarez is here, and he's actually wearing a red shirt.
I remember that text. I was tickled pink because you keep calling him a red shirt, and he hasn't died yet.
He hasn't though, but like he is he's like, like Barnes, like and this is my strike force. We call them the Cannon Father, the red shirts.
Oh God. He's like what's his name from Galaxy Quest?
The guy with no name.
Yeah, he's like, my character doesn't even have a name. Yeah, like, and now Red Shirt Strike Force. You must fight Professor Pig, Victor Zsasz, and the Yellow Tech Virus all at the same time. Like, good luck. Anyway, here's the interview with the mighty Alvarez. I was more excited about this than I should have been.
Why? It was Alvarez.
Welcome. Please have a seat.
What's up? It amuses me to no end that you're wearing a literal red shirt because I've always said that Alvarez is like the red shirt that like is somehow still alive.
You know what I'm saying?
There's so many times where like every single cop is like either slaughtered by like Jerome or Professor Pig
or
like,
Zsasz.
And then at the end of last season, you have the Alice Tech virus. I'm like, oh, they're gonna shoot him. Then you just got knocked out. So why do you think Alvarez has survived when others have gone quietly into the good night?
I think, well, number one, I mean, if they're going to remain consistent with the comic books, Alvarez is a comic book character, right? He was in the New 52, the Catwoman series, and he doesn't die. So if we're going to follow that, then that's probably why I'm still alive. I think number two, Alvarez strikes an interesting balance in the GCPD, right? I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain his role in the GCPD. I'm always arguing with Gordon and with Bullock and stuff. And I don't know. After the season finale of season 3, when I read that script, I said, "Oh my God, they're killing Alvarez." And then I found out that I was coming back. I was happy, of course, but I don't know. I think at this point, being one of the few detectives, right, who's still alive, it'd be nice to see Alvarez a bit more employed, right? Maybe deployed to some of these cases that you always see Gordon and Bullock going on. And I suspect that that's going to happen really soon. Yeah.
All right.
But ultimately, I think Alvarez, he's earned his way, and I think he's earned his time in the GCPD, and I think it's time that we see a bit more of him.
So you're talking about the new 52 and everything. It sounds like you're well versed with the comics. Were you a fan beforehand? Did you know about this character beforehand?
I grew up a diehard Punisher fan.
Okay.
Super diehard. I didn't know about Alvarez, to be honest with you. It was actually someone on social media that tagged a picture of Alvarez, the comic book character, with me, and I'm like, man, that guy looks like me. That's so cool that they're drawing me. And they're like, no, it's the other way around. Obviously I want to be as informed as possible, and I want to do my homework, right? So I went and bought every comic book that Alvarez was ever in. I actually reached out to the creator, Judd Winnick, and Guillen March, who drew Alvarez, and asked a bunch of questions and stuff. But really, I'm the first human to play him, so I kind of don't want to, be tied on to too much of what he did, and I kind of want to figure some things out for myself.
Are there some other characters as a fan that you want to maybe bring to the screen? You're interested at all?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh man, Blue Beetle.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think Blue Beetle, Diablo, right? I think so too, man. Can you make a call? Yeah, right. He's like, don't call, no. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of. I said it out there. I'll say it again. It's a unique opportunity to have somebody like me, right, who served in the war and in the mean streets of New York City. To bring that level of authenticity to a comic book character would be awesome. And I look forward to that opportunity one day.
Yeah. So obviously,
to add to that, I'm sorry. I just want to add to that. Being an actor before I joined the military, I acted in high school.
Okay.
Went into the military, started acting after the military.
Yeah.
You give me hope, brother. So
that's awesome,
I want to thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Obviously, comics can run the gamut from very silly to very serious, and Gotham is on the more serious side of the show, and PTSD is a very serious issue.
Yes.
Do you welcome the opportunity to address such issues in entertainment, and how have you experienced that so far?
Yeah, I think it's about time. We've been at war now as a nation for over 15 years. Many of our young people are veterans now themselves. When I went to the invasion of Iraq, it was 2003. So some of the kids, they were little kids. Now they've gone. We've been at war so long that now they've gone. They served. So I think that the fact that we're talking about it is a positive, not a negative. But I want to make sure that we're being truthful. Post-traumatic stress doesn't mean you're going to come home and shoot up a school or a post office. That's not what we're talking about here. We're saying that you can have it, but you can overcome. You can fight through it. You can get help, and you can come back and do amazing things. You can be soccer coaches. You can be principals at schools. You can run corporations. Hell, you can even come back and be Detective Alvarez on a show like Gotham.
That's right.
And that's the truth about what it can be.
He right here recording you.
Boom.
That's right.
That's got to be the first round of applause at the press
Right.
Thank you, God. Yeah. But that's the truth. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So how do you think Alvarez experiences PTSD with him seeing all of these cops die and him surviving.
I think one of the ways that Alvarez could experience post-traumatic stress is he doesn't really have a lot of friends on the show. And so maybe he could be an introvert, right? Someone that maybe feels a bit alone in all this. Maybe he's incredibly frustrated, with the fact that he can't be used more. Because one of the things that veterans experience is when you come back, when you're in the service, you're in charge of like millions of dollars worth of gear, and then when you come back, you're in charge of yourself.
Right, yeah.
And so maybe Alvarez feels like if he was used a little bit more, he'd be more gainfully employed, he'd feel more useful. So maybe that's one of the ways, But I think that's a great question.
Alrighty, well, I think that was the last question.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your time.
We saw you. We saw you hovering. Now maybe Alvarez can find a friend in Detective Harper, because I kind of feel like as both of like the background cops of like the series, like,
you know what I'm saying?
In my fan mind, they're secretly hooking up.
So to be honest, what you're saying is you just want a friend on the show.
I just want a friend.
We feel for you, man.
Yeah.
Let's get on those writers to do that.
Yeah, it's always very interesting when they their characters with a profile such as yours, because they're not the hero per se, but they're a very important bridge between the hero and the civilian.
Oh man, it's funny how many fans write to me, and say, Alvarez, it's I never, I don't know.
Right.
I try not to get too like, oh wow, they love me.
My friend Jan, who's one of the hosts on the Gotham podcast, she's like, I love Alvarez. Tell him Jan loves him.
Jan, well, tell Jan I said I love her.
Oh yes, Jan. Well, thank
you guys
for your service.
You're very welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Awesome.
What about that?
You're welcome.
Thank you. I start crying. Oh God, he was awesome. I really, really loved that interview, and not just because I love Alvarez.
No, that was really great, and I love how like even though he's playing like Alvarez, who like let's be real is like a third tier character on the show, he still is like, I'm going to research everything I could about this character in every comic he's in. And then he like contacted like Judd Winnick and like Julian March. I was like, wow, that's like that's dedication. I love that.
I think that's really nice too, because they created the character. I mean, I'm going to play this character you created.
Yeah, the WB like publicist, I think it was Mark Klein, was like standing behind us, like waving his hands, like wrap it up. Like you can't see that on the recording. That's why like he was like making faces, like we need him to move tables. That's why Ben said after his question, "All right, I think that was the last question." Because, like, but then like Alvarez like still like talked to us for a little bit, but like the publicist like thanked Ben. He's like, "Good, you did my job for me." But I loved. Not just like proud like Papa moment or whatever, but I love like Ben's question. That was like really thoughtful. Like, yeah, like Alvarez has seen a lot of shit. Like, like
his exact words.
Yeah, like all of his friends have died. Like every single year, like because like Zaz and like Jerome and like constantly like all these cops are dying, and Alvarez like must have survivor's guilt. So I thought that was like an interesting question and thought too. And
that was a really good question from him. I was like so impressed. I was like, look at you, I want to squish your face, son.
This is the most like positive podcast episode we've ever done on this show.
Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah, that's because all the actors are like really good, and they had really good things to say. One was on diversity, one was on feminism, one was on PTSD, and they all had like wonderful things to say. And they're all very super inspiring because all three of them are like minorities. You had three minority. I know that Camren and Erin are both white, but they're both women.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So like you had like this is basically like just a minority sweep, and then also talks about mental illness and how their work environment is more of like conducive to like being supportive versus like trying to shove them out or trying to make them hide it. And I also really like how Cortes was all like, oh yeah, you can come back and then you can be this person here. And then he explains how coming back from a war and then you get out of unenlist and then you can't find a job and then it like becomes like more difficult. No, it's not how he said it, but he's saying like, oh, they could give him more to do. And then it'll make him feel needed because, he's only in charge of himself versus all the other stuff. And there's also the structure is gone after you leave the military too. Although there's the structure in the police, it's less like you're going to eat when I tell you to, sleep when I tell you to, and do this one and that when I tell you to. So there's also like a lot of destabilizing elements when you actually leave the military. What was the other thing? Yeah, I seriously would love. I know we're not there yet because it's only season 4, but I do want to get to a season where they just have like a whole episode dedicated to watching him and his family go through a day in the life sort of thing. Like when you get to a season where you can afford to have like that kind of, people like call them like filler episodes. I don't call them filler. I call them like more like character studies. Mm-hmm. Like that would be amazing because he is like this. Like
I would be so worried that his family would die if we showed them.
Stop saying that. You always have Gordon, you always have Penguin, you have these main stars, but just have them in the episodes, but the whole episode will just be like from his point of view and following him around through one of these cases, just like was it Gotham Central? Just like that. Just do one of those episodes.
Oh my God.
In that case, Gordon would be like the Batman of the episode, but it would be showing like the cops that aren't Gordon and Bullock not saving the day, but like how they have to deal with it every day. I mean, it's a little bit more real, but I like that kind of stuff.
Well, there's something to be said about a show that is a spin-off of a franchise. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, Batman's my favorite hero, but his comics are insanely white and male-oriented.
Yeah.
Like in this,
mostly because of when they were created and like original, and when the characters were established too.
I mean, I think it's to some extent that's an excuse because when you consider characters like, I remember writing about this in like my Harley and Ivy article. We consider, and it's not me like digging on the comics obviously, but like when you consider characters like Catwoman and Cassandra Cain and Alicia Yeoh and Lucius Fox and Luke Fox and Orpheus and all that kind of stuff, they honestly end up at a very small number. So the opportunity that they seize upon to kind of have this sort of like kind of coming together and kind of healthy discussion about this kind of stuff really speaks to, I think, the potential that Gotham is kind of capitalizing on. I mean, say what you will. I mean, I've said a lot about this show. I don't think
we all have.
We all have.
There's hours and hours.
I don't know how much over the last 4 seasons I've really digged on diversity because I don't think that there's much to kind of criticize about. They do seize any opportunity they can to make the show more because Jessica Lucas is still around, that kind of thing, and I mean yeah. Maybe that's why Ben McKenzie wasn't there, but I applaud them for doing what they can in the modern conversation, just telling different stories and really committing to it without. Like, I mean, yeah, we can say all that we can about Lucius and how Alvarez isn't there all the time, but like, I mean, it's better than nothing, and I think that you can say that more than other shows that I probably don't watch.
And there's like Morena too. She's Brazilian.
That's true.
Well, some of the other cast members were there not for the panels, but for like like the signing and the cocktail party, because there was also like a cast signing that Drew Powell, Davi, Sean, and
was it Robin Lord Taylor there?
Yeah, Robin Lord Taylor. I have the pictures from the party. I'll go through them, but like, yeah, it's so some of them were there just to kind of like, they should have had Alexander Siddig there. Like, what nationality is he?
Is he? Is he?
He's
Indian?
like Palestinian.
I better look it up.
He's actually Arabic, which is why the whole reason I started watching this show. His name is Siddiq El Tahir El Fadil El Siddiq Abdurrahman Mohammed Ahmed Abdel Karim El Mahdi, and he is from Sudan. This is the entire reason I started watching the show. He was the first racially accurate Ra's al Ghul I've ever seen cast, and that blew my mind. Yeah, Ralph Ghul. But yeah, his maternal uncle is Malcolm McDowell. Holy crap!
Really?
Yes.
Huh? How old is it? Okay, Malcolm McDowell, I know, is like in his 70s, right?
Alexander is 52. Malcolm McDowell is 74.
Damn. I mean, what was the name of that movie that you and I saw with him? Where he was like trying to get his daughter back?
Hold on.
Was it Inescapable?
Yes.
I want my family back.
I mean, he's great. I do remember him from Star Trek: Deep Space Nine, but like I honestly, yeah, like I would be very interested to see, even though he plays a bad guy. I mean, I think Ra's is he can be a sympathetic villain, and it's a shame. I don't think that like they kicked him out, but it's a shame that he wasn't there.
There's like two things.
He wasn't available. I asked the publicist like before we went there because I wanted to reunite him and Ben again, but like
so he could slash his throat.
Yeah, well,
slit his throat.
Well, Ben bonded with other villains.
Knife to see
you.
No.
So, because this was being held at the museum, like, you know, in between panels, this was cool. The rest of the museum, like, you could walk around and see the exhibits. So, Ben and I did that for a little bit before the Black Lightning premiere, and the Gotham connection in there is that Gordon's Uncle Frank was Gamby in the Black Lightning premiere and screening. So I wrote a fuller review on that. Guy. Yeah. So I wrote a fuller review on that for the website and stuff, you know, where I talked more about the episode. But the Gotham connection would be that, like, after the premiere, Ben and I were able to score tickets to this premiere party, which was really cool because those were not open to the public. You had to be invited by like Warner Brothers, and like people were asking Warner Brothers, "Can I come to this?" And Warner Brothers was saying no or like ignoring people. So I was trying to get these tickets for a while, and we schmoozed with like, you know, the Warner Brothers publicity people. They're like, "Oh, I don't know. There's going to be an open bar there. Like, you know, I don't know if we're allowed to have kids there." I was like, "Oh, there's an open bar in this press room, and he's in that." So, and Ben was, and I was like, "Well, David Mazouz is going to be there. He's under 18." And they're like, "Oh, that's true. I guess we'll see."
He plans on getting severely drunk. So
yeah, like he was a teenage Bruce on this. So we went into this like bus with a bunch of other like members of the press that like, and like the WB publicist. It was like summer camp. She's like our camp counselor, like telling us, "Okay, when you get to the party, this is gonna happen, and this thing, and this thing." And then like I felt like I was in like the Washington press corps because we're on this bus with like just other reporters going to this like exclusive party.
And then Sarah Huckabee Sanders shows up.
Yeah, there'll be no questions about Russia to the Black Lightning cast. Why would we ask the Black Lightning cast? Why would we ask the Black Lightning cast about Russia?
He was involved.
Exactly. But that was pretty cool. And we were also, if you saw on Facebook, like dressed up in like our finest like suits. Like, you know, we like we went all out for this. So
that makes me sad. I wanted to be there.
The party was if you listen to like the other podcast, Ben is like, "Why wasn't Donovan at this? Donovan would have loved this." I was like, "Dude, I know." Like
we all would have loved it.
So the party was at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and like during the party you could walk around and like see the exhibits. And there was couches and stuff like decorated with like characters from like the shows. Like there's a couch that had like Gordon, Penguin, and like other stuff on it, and then, you know, the other CW shows too, the other DC ones. And there was comics like, you know, like all around that like you could like pick up and just like sit on the couch and read if you're one of those people that reads at parties, like my high school girlfriend was, and or like Ben wound up doing at one point. And like there's like pills with DC stuff. So our Gotham encounters
there were pills?
Party,
Pillows. Calm down.
We did a line.
Pills and potions. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. There was a live band with like a singer, and there was like a, you know, the best food like that you could think of, and I was like sad that I had ate like at the press room all day because I wasn't hungry. But okay, so I'm looking at the pictures that we took. We took a picture with Robin Lord Taylor. And he was nice. And later on, we had like a moment with him because there's a reporter from Bleeding Cool who I run into at a lot of these conventions named Will. We were like joking around. We're like, Ben, you got to get a notepad and walk up to like Robin Lord Taylor and pretend to be Martine.
Here we go.
It would be so hilarious. So like Ben did that, and the pictures are on Facebook and Twitter, and he writes, will you be my friend? Signed to confirm, because that was Ben's way of asking for an autograph too. And like Robin Lord Taylor's like, and what's your name? And like Ben like takes the pad and like writes like he's Martine, like I Ben. So then Robin Lord Taylor like signs it like do as I say, not as I do, OC for Oswald Cobblepot, and like an umbrella. And we're like, oh, that was awesome. And like
the best thing in the world.
Yeah, it almost rivals the Alexander Siddig moment. Like, but like,
no, he wrote the OC for like Watch the OC, Ben McKenzie's origin story.
Exactly. Ben McKenzie Origins OC. I'm looking at my pictures. So I have a picture of Jeff Johns talking with Sean Pertwee and Davi Mazzales, which like I was like, oh my gosh, a guy who writes Batman comics is talking with Batman. This is such an interesting sight. I have our picture with Erin Richards, who we spoke to at the bar for a little bit. Alvarez, yeah. I'm just looking through these, and we ran into Drew Powell, and we like made monster faces with him, and he was a great guy. Like he wasn't. Every time I've met him since my first meeting, like he just seems so relaxed. Like when I first interviewed him at Walker Stalker Con, like I he wasn't so relaxed there, so I was like, oh, okay, I guess he's not one of those easygoing guys. But every time I've seen him since then, he's always down the party, and
Butch always down the party.
Well, it's been like 3-4 years, and he's been doing this con circuit. I mean, after a while, it just becomes like normal.
Well, I think it was because I don't know. It's just sometimes someone's having a bad afternoon or a bad day or whatever. But he remembered Ben, and he didn't even interview Ben at San Diego. But like they took a picture in the press room. He's like, "Oh, I remember you." So I was like, "Oh wow, that's it." So we were talking to him, and I was like, "Is it easier to remember your lines now?" And he says, "Oh my gosh, so much easier." But he's like, "But watch the second half of season 4 because Butch is back, and it's gonna get interesting." And then he and I talked about like.
Sorry.
That was a little loud.
It's cool.
Sorry, I got excited.
He and I talked about season 1 for a little bit, and how Butch was like kind of like always there in the background, and so it's kind of fun to just like talk with these guys, like not just an interview, but just like casually. We also ran into Sean Pertwee, who was like talking about Black Lightning with us. He's like, that was a good show. That was almost better than Gotham, And I'm flipping through these other pictures. We did a picture with Chris Chalk, which like the lighting is, really bright in the background. And let's see, is there any more? Oh yes, and I'm looking at our picture. We're making like cat claws with Camren Bicondova. So we saw that there was the band and live music. So Will, which is the other Bleeding Cool reporter, we like made this like dare/bet with Ben. We're like, Ben, if people start dancing, you're gonna ask Camren Bicondova to dance with you, and he's like, no. And I was like, I'll give you $20, and he's like, no way. And I'm like, all right, I'll make it 30, 35. And then Will, he's like, I'll throw $30 in there too. So we're like, that's $65 to dance with a girl. You're doing this, and he's like, no, I'm not. And he's like nervously looking around to like make sure that Camren Bicondova is like nowhere near us because he's thinking we're gonna force him to do this.
What are you, Roger Klotz?
You guys are terrible.
I dare you,
poor child.
I dare you to kiss Doug.
With you?
Coercing this 11-year-old boy, like dance with this celebrity in front of all this alcohol and cameras.
It would have been fun, but nobody else was dancing, so like I thought so. I didn't push it because if they were the only two people dancing, it would have been weird and like more conspicuous.
Yes, it would have been.
I would have asked Erin Richards to dance if people were dancing. He's like, my barbecue.
But you didn't, and you tried to get this little boy to dance with somebody when no one else was dancing because you're a terrible human.
Well, you got to get him out of his show.
He's also sleazy.
Jessica Lucas.
You can't push too hard though.
She remembered him too, and then afterwards we splurged. We took like an Uber like black car back to the hotel, and that was the end of the party and really the end of the convention because like we went back the next day to the pop-up booth. That's when I got the.
Well, wasn't most of the events like all of the events mainly on Saturday?
Yeah, it was on Saturday. They left the booth open on Sunday, and there was one event on Friday, which was Gotham by Gaslight. But yeah, that was basically the convention was really, really cool, and This was probably like press wise, like one of the coolest things I've ever done. And that premiere party, that was like the culmination of everything that like I've been like doing like on the internet and podcast wise for like almost the past decade. So this was without a doubt one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Oh, that's nice. Now, will this greatest experience?
Wow.
Will this greatest?
That's nice.
Will this greatest experience of your life be happening again? Do you know? Will this be a recurring thing?
So, well, I think that one of the reasons why this went so well is because, like,
I wasn't there.
It was on a smaller, because you weren't there. Because it was on like a smaller scale. Like, if they tried to do this at San Diego, it would not work out the same way. Like, you know, this was smaller and more intimate. If they do it again, hopefully it'll be as good or better. They said that they were testing the waters out, and that if this worked out, they would be doing more stuff like this. And I don't know how it was received, the men in suits upstairs, but I mean, I can tell you that the reception was pretty good, and I thought that it worked out pretty well. So
I would totally be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah. Dom was really close to coming, and we tried to get Stella to come up too. So
yeah, my end, it was legitimately like I found out about it too late to really iron out the schedule. But I mean, like seriously, like because it involves so much like history and kind of like social conversation. Like in a hypothetical future where this happens down the line, I would love for like both Jan and I to be there too, because
we
represent.
If I'm still in the country.
If she's still in the country, because it kind of represents different types of people. Yeah,
no, like
it was also really cool to be doing this in Washington D.C. because like we were walking around and like just like taking in all this like history. Like, wow, there's like the White House, and whether you love or you hate the person that's in there right now, it's still the White House, and the Capitol building, the reflecting pool, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial. And our next Gotham is still on break, but our next episode is going to be one that I've been wanting to do for a while. Ben McKinsey Origins, the OC. We're going to do a commentary on the first episode, so look for that. Look for that sometime in the next few weeks. Any other thoughts about the convention and the interviews?
I mean, I elbow you in the ribs, but this sounded absolutely wonderful, and I'm glad that like you had so much fun, and I'm glad that they did it, and I hope that like they kind of take this opportunity to kind of have different ideas about what to do with the characters, like give Lucius and Alvarez more to do, and use the goodwill that these actors have, and make the future brighter.
I still really want that Gotham Central Alvarez episode to roll through. Just to see, like, and I don't want his family to die, because it's like, how does his family deal with him going to work all this time and being in such danger, and his wife being like, you almost died like 10 times. Why do you still work for the police department? You have a family at home that needs you. Like, I don't know. Anyway.
Who is this Gordon who's always putting you in danger? Oh, I hate my boss.
Oh, you should tell him off. That'll be
Gordon comes over for dinner and like... and the wife is like, oh my gosh, you're real? I thought that he just made you up as like an excuse for why he was late. It's like, I'm sorry I'm late, my boss got like buried alive by his ex-fiance who released a virus throughout the city. I know you're making that up. Like,
she should just start recounting and just saying like how ridiculous everything is, and Alvarez is just looking at her like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Well, it's very lovely meeting you.
A virus and bust out of the coffin? Like, what is this, Frankenstein? Like, she should just rip into it. Like,
well, Alvarez, I made it despite your directions.
I have.
That'll be awesome.
I think that's the show right there. So until next time, this is Josh.
This is Donovan.
This is Jan.
And you've been listening to the Gotham Chronicle podcast.
I didn't know that you.
As you would be. I'm so sad that Ben McKinsey was not there. I would have like loaded him up with liquor and then like, all right, now I need you to say homeless cop like you're Scooby Doo into my phone. Like, why am I doing this? Okay, homeless West Coast. And I'm like, yes, got it. And then like
that'll just be your opening forever.
And then like, and then
the homeless cop adventure.
I like rush out the door before anything could happen, and like Rena Bicondova like stands in front of the door, like, I'm gonna need that phone from you. And I like turn around and like Drew Powell's like holding like Ben in the air. Give the lady the phone, boy.
No. Grundy want phone.
Give Grundy phone.
For some reason, he's automatically in his Grundy makeup.
I saw like a video. It takes him forever to put those on. It takes like his lines are easy to remember now, but like it takes him forever to like get ready now. Like poor
I'm sure it does. Yeah, it's like full body makeup.
There's gonna be one of the kids like had a suggestion for me to say, well, what if you go to the YMCA and rent one of those lockers for a year and just leave him in there? That way he's in a locker room, just like he was for season 1. And I was like, that is kind of brilliant. Like
for some reason he starts
the locker to store this one Funko Pop. And then
why? Because I take jokes too far.
When you're dead and someone reads your will, they go in there and they're all like, why is this Funko Pop in here?
For some reason, this Funko Pop, even though it's like an inanimate object, it has like beard hair and everything. Like, it's like
meticulously groomed by you.
Let me out.
The last laugh.
I've been in here for years. So.
Okay, what is that?
Josh's vibrator's acting up.
It's freaking glip. Okay, keep going.
I don't even remember what I was saying.
No, it's like the positivity of this episode.
Almost on.
Someone's sending medication stuff to this like group chat, and it's like, okay, that's enough.
Is there any way you could turn off the vibrator or whatever that is?
When I turn it on silent, it does vibrate. If I to go into like the vibrate setting, I'd have to like do like 6 different strains.
Oh, okay.
But like go to options, go to this.
Okay, let me try this again.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I opened my mouth. I was like, okay, I'll stop talking.